Hello, my name is George. This is GLLR Cars. Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking Ford F-150. About cars and which are the best-selling cars in America, something that people don't pay attention to is they just use the keyword cars. If you were to say automobiles or you were to say vehicles, the best-selling car in America, it's not actually a car, it's a truck. It's the Ford F-150. So why is the number one selling vehicle in America a pickup truck? And why the Ford F-150? Well, that speaks volumes about the fact that a truck is a very versatile vehicle. And that versatility is what I want to talk about. And why the Ford F-150? Well, Ford must be doing something right for it to be the number one selling vehicle in America. And that's something that I want to talk about too. This Ford F-150 is part of the GLLR Cars fleet. I've owned this car since 2010. So this is a 2010 Ford F-150. And for the last 9 years that I've owned, this car has been very useful, very versatile. I've used it for many different reasons, and it's held up pretty well. I'll talk a little bit more in details about that, but I believe that a pickup truck, it is the most versatile vehicle that is out there. Whether you don't like trucks, whether you don't like big vehicles, whether your specialty is something different like sedans or sports cars, you would have to admit that a pickup truck can check many more boxes than other cars if what you need is something that can do the most with a single vehicle. This car has been reviewed. This is not a new model vehicle. There's been 9 other versions after it, but I like to talk about this one, not just because I own it, but it gives you a perception and a feel for what it's like, how it's held up, and if you're looking to buy a used car from the perspective of an original owner who I could have sold a car many times before, I chose to hold on to it. That should also say something about the car.
To start with the design of the car, the Ford F-150, since it comes in different trim levels, the first thing that you see is it's got a grille that has chrome and this mesh-like design all the way around the blue oval, and different trim levels will have different designs of this grille. This one in particular, in fact, when I first bought it, I was hoping it wouldn't have so much chrome, but it just grew into me. I think that it does a fine job. I think that this is more of a choice that others can have. So you have your XL, your XLT, your Lariat, your limited edition, you have your King Ranch version. So there's many different designs based on that trim level. The lights, which are very big and bright and is meant to define the character of the vehicle, where it's got this big wide nose, it's very fitting. So it's very squared off and doesn't really need to be that big, but if they would have made it any smaller, it probably wouldn't have looked as well. The hood has this squared off shape with another squared off notch that goes the other way around, and again, not a bad design. It's a little bit more square than many other cars, but I think that that's what they did for that year. The mirrors are got turning signals on the side, and it lights up here, and it's got the reflectors on the side. Also, kind of, you can flip them in, since it is a very wide car. Whenever you park it in a spot where you don't want your mirrors to be bumped, you can do that. It's got the keypad. Now on some of the newer Fords, the press button keypads is more like a touchscreen, and they moved it up into the B panel. And this right here is very useful in case that you need to come back out to your driveway, or you lock your keys, or you, for whatever reason, don't want to take the keys with you. You can do that, where you can set your PIN and being able to get into the car that way. The step bar, very useful as well. One of the things that I did that I can talk about is I put a little bit of skateboard tape right here in front of the logo, because when it gets rainy, it wasn't as grippy enough for the car right there. These are the standard wheels that it came. They're 20-inch wheels. The tailgate, I think over the years they've had different designs. This one that had these vertical lines that went across the tailgate, it did a very good job. It didn't look as plain as just a sheet of metal that had no design whatsoever. This obviously, this up here, this tonneau cover is an optional tonneau cover. I used to have a fiberglass one that would lift up with those little hydraulic hinges that you just push up, but it would only open about maybe just 30 degrees up. These are better in that these are trifold and you can open it all the way up. So if you need to carry something that is taller than the height of the side of your pickup bed, then this can do both of those. So you can open it fully or you can close it, and it does lock up and it is weatherproof. The doors, which there's some, like in some other vehicles, they have the matching chrome. I like the ones when I spec'd out this vehicle that has the same color as the color on the side of the vehicle, at least on the top, because on the bottom it just had the gold. It didn't have that unless you were to do something custom. Now, just as a reference for you to have an idea what the pickup bed, or at least the tailgate, does not have a way to hold back the weight, so you do need to lower it carefully, and that's changed since then. For this tonneau cover to unlock, you have to press one of these unlocking, I guess these cables. They come on both sides, one in the left, one in the right. Doesn't matter on which side you are, so long as you press it down, it unlocks that mechanism, and then you can flip 1/3 of it up. And again, the reason I have this this accessory here that you can flip it and then it moves to the sides of the pickup bed is if you just need to store an item, you don't want it to slide all the way to the back of the pickup bed. Like if you go to like a Costco or a Walmart or some kind of store and you buy some items that is not going to fill up your bed and you don't want to be jumping up to reach all the way to the end, this will do the job. So going back here on the tonneau cover, same cable applies, press it down, trying to do this with one hand, and it allows you to flip it yet once again. And again, and this will flip a 3rd time around. I can show you that on another video, but I can flip it a 3rd time and it'll go right up against that window and the entire pickup bed will be exposed. The other thing that the bed has, besides the fact that it has the drop-in liner, is that it has the step that you just flip the bottom up about 30 degrees, pull it out, release it, and then you flip this step for you to get in the car. And then if you need a grab handle, you flip the locking mechanism up, and then you can flip that bar to get up. So just to get in, just an easy way to hop on and just grab onto that handle and you're up on the bed like that. So very useful, very versatile at the same time. Looking at the interior of the F-150, this Lariat model has some faux wood trim panels in the inside and over on the side on the doors. The perforated seats give you both heated and cool seats in the front. It has the sunroof and moonroof that you can operate. It's not very long, it doesn't reach all the way to the back, but it's very functional. The rear seats, I'll talk about those in a little bit. They're actually quite comfortable. There's quite a bit of space back there, as expected. Lots of storage space, cup holders in the back. Got cup holders here in the front. And it basically fits cups of all sizes. It's got a little bit of a storage here in the front. I got this little cable here because every once in a while I do put a dash camera that I route around here and then move it all the way up. Put it actually right there where that is. And it has a center console that's expected in a very large truck. It has a little tray here where you can put business cards and other junk there. You have a very big storage area down there. And here on the actual cover itself, it's got various notches, and I don't know, they said cell phone there, but no cell phone will fit there unless it's something extremely small that's not out there. As you can see from how aged this is, an MP3 player, this is where a cell phone would be now today. A smartphone will play like that as well. The seats have multiple adjustments. I'm going to show you that here on the side. If I get down, show you the adjustments there. It's got 2 memory positions: forward, back, up, down, and lumbar support. One thing that I like to point out is the leather. 9 years of usage has created this wrinkling on the leather that you can put leather conditioner to try to, I guess, hold back the clock. But at some point, if you have a car that's been used as much, 120,000 miles in 9 years, this is something that is repairable. There's places that do that. In fact, I'm going to have that done on this truck, and it will look as good as new. In fact, this wrinkle here is going to probably end up looking more like this part of the leather, preserving the same color and no wrinkles on the leather. But just keep that in mind. The other thing that I like to point out is the color of the leather. The lighter colors on leather make a car more spacious. That's why many luxury cars, they use that. However, the lighter colors tend to show more of the wear. So keep that in mind. Looking at the steering wheel, it's got some functional buttons in the front. So it has both for previous and next track, the volume controls. This media control actually has, and this is going back to 2010, so this was actually quite good feature. You could actually talk to the sync system and ask for points of interest. You could ask for directions on the navigation system and such. It allows you to do Bluetooth with your phone. Over here on this side, it basically has the cruise control buttons. A nice feature that I like of this truck is that the pedals can be moved away from you or towards you by me pressing this button. So hopefully the camera will capture this. I'm going to go ahead and move them towards me here. So let's see if it captures that. It actually moved, but again, it doesn't really show very much. This is just to adjust the length of your feet. I usually put it, the way I keep it is all the way back. Your light controls, the dimmer, if you can see here on the dash, 120,000 miles, and all the gauges being analog. The only is that older LCD screen that allows you to toggle from the buttons here, that allows you to toggle, for instance, your average miles per gallon. This is instant miles per gallon, doesn't show anything unless I'm driving it. Timer information, you can turn it off completely, and then you have your trip A and trip B. So those are the main features, main gauges. So don't expect a whole lot here on a car that is 9 years old. The air conditioning vents, and by the way, that's just a little coin holder there. I like the fact that you can actually point with this system where it has a dial and then the vents on the dial that rotate. It has the ability for you to point the AC at basically 360 degrees all the way around, any place that you need to point it at. Some cars that don't have the dial, in fact the newer F150s, they don't have it in this mechanism, so you can point it in any direction you want by just rotating that dial. I actually like this more, but some cars have gotten away from it, including this very car. Looking at the center console, you have your shortcut buttons for destination, navigation, map, menu, climate controls. By the way, climate controls can be either digital, as in here, or you can use the analog buttons for climate control. Your heated and cool seats, your temperature controls. It has automatic, and it does have dual zone radar controls and media controls. And the media controls, you can connect with Bluetooth devices, and you can use it for talking on your phone with your hands free. So again, for a car that's 9 years old, this is actually quite advanced at the time. Got a 12-volt outlet here, and then you have a regular USB and an auxiliary outlet there. This sync system, this Microsoft sync system, is the first edition. Is this? I think they don't call it Sync 1. is when the next one came out was Sync 2, but this is the original sync system that came out. The one thing I could say about the sync system is the maps. The maps are usually updated every couple of years when you get a system like this, and this one I did do an update for that Ford allows you to make, but they stopped being free after a couple of years. So the last one that I did, it did cost a couple $100 to keep it up to speed. My recommendation is, for today's vehicles, don't get a navigation system. Get one that supports Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and then you don't have to worry about upgrading the maps. They will be as fresh as your phone will be able to update it on those maps, and the turn-by-turn directions will be better anyway. If it comes with a car and it's part of a package and you don't care about it, that's fine, but I can guarantee you they'll probably end up using that more. This being a 2010 car, it does not have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, so I'll use this if I'm away from my town and I just want to see some main streets, but I don't do the turn-by-turn directions. I'll just use my phone. Let's taking a look in the interior in the back seat. One of the things that you notice is that I do have a couple of different mats on the floor, and that is because I never really bought the long mats that basically cover the entire back. So I got the ones that came with the car, and I put those multi-weather one. You have a couple of these air vents in the back that, again, it's got that 360-degree all the way look around, and an extra 12-volt outlet there. Again, you have the cup holders that are sticking out from the back of the car, and back here there is the this, I've talked about this in other cars, this area where you can have a passenger, or you can pull this out and you have a an area where you can have an armrest, and it's got cup holders there as well. So very versatile, very useful, and very practical more than anything. Other than that, really, is you know, the hooks there, the grab handles, and very practical. You got these pockets here into the back of the seats, but very big, very spacious. As you can see, I'm sitting here, sitting behind myself, and I have the chair pretty far back, and I have a good 8 inches of space on my knees. So never going to have a problem with space, and it's very comfortable. I've been in the back on long trips as well, where I haven't been the driver, and that's the best way to know your car, is knowing it more than just from the driver's seat perspective. The acceleration, when I punch it, it has enough of a push, but not enough of a punch back to really feel this, or to make this car feel light. So the car really does feel heavy, as it would be. A pickup truck is heavy, and in order to make it feel light, it would really need to be a very high performing engine, and that's not the case here. So because of the size of the vehicle and what I would say the inadequate power, you don't have that punchback feel on the car. The transmission, on the other hand, is very smooth. You really have to accelerate it hard to feel the shifts. So the transmission does have a good timing of shifting, where you don't have to worry about not feeling like it's on the right gear. The steering feel is very smooth, so because the steering is very mechanical, you do feel where your tires are at any point in time, and it is surprisingly sensitive. If I just move it less than a quarter inch, I can feel the wheels moving accordingly. The ride is one of the best rides that of cars that I've driven. The Ford F150, with the size and the suspension and the size tires, you really do feel like you're driving on a cloud. You really have to compare that to cars that are meant to have really good ride to match it against it. So when I go over a pothole, when I go over a speed bump, although I am careful when I drive over one of those, you don't feel them as much as any other car that I've driven. So that's definitely a plus
for a car like this. Having driven this car for 9 years now, it is surprisingly well built in that there are no shakes and rattles or trim issues with the car. It has held up pretty well, over 120,000 miles, and it has held up very, very well. Next, I want to talk about the driving position. It is so important for a car that you're going to be driving for a fair amount of time that the driving position plays in a big factor into the desire to drive a car. And this car has a driving position that is as good as it gets. For me, the factors that make a good driving position are the distance that you can adjust the backrest of your chair to the steering wheel, the distance that both the top and the bottom of the steering wheel is from your knees and from the top of your hands, how far below your chin is. So I know that a lot goes into adjusting the seat, adjusting the wheel, adjusting the height and the length and the distance from it. But once you get that sweet spot, what I like about the driving position in this car is that the distance of your elbows from the armrest to the steering wheel is ideal. So you can rest your elbows, and both left and right, and have your hands on the wheel at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. So they measured those distances, at least for my height and for my size. It is pretty ideal. The distance of the pedals in relationship to the distance of the steering wheel from my arms and from the center of my chest is ideal. It's perfectly centered. I don't need to shift my body, and I have the bend in my arms that I like, and at the same time my legs are not cooped up. So this is as good as it gets, as I mentioned. If you are as picky as I am when it comes to that driving position, and you would look at that on any car, there are cars that do it well, there are cars that don't do it so well. And again, you would have to be picky as I am about it. But if you do like that, it will probably be a car that you will spend a considerable amount of time driving, and it will not bother you too much to drive it for long periods of time. So what is Ford doing right for the F-150 to be the market leader in terms of overall sales? Well, there is no one thing that you can point your finger at and saying this is why. I would rather say it is a collection of things that they're doing to not make a mistake. So what I mean is the following. When you look at a car, you're going to have something that is going to aggravate you about the car. No car is perfect, obviously, and this is no different. But what I don't find in this car is something that really, really aggravates me. As much as I am picky about certain things and I have my pet peeves such as anybody else, there is no one thing that drives me up the wall about this car. So I think that's the best way I can explain what Ford is doing right. They try to do many things in a way that will fulfill the needs of the many without angering the few, perhaps. That's as best as I can explain it. So if you're looking for a specialized car in terms of power, there's a car for that. There's a specialized car in terms of towing. Of course, there's your heavy duty ones. There's F250, you have your Rams, you got your diesel engines. So there are specialized cars for that. You got specialized cars for capacity. You got, larger SUVs with 3 rows of seats. There's cars for that. But if you want the most versatile car that checks the most boxes without, like I said before, angering you, then this is probably that secret sauce that Ford has to make a car that appeals to the wider audience, and what makes it perhaps to this day, still the best-selling vehicle in America. So why is it that I think that the vehicle is very versatile? If you think about the fact that this is a crew cab vehicle, this car can easily take 5 people very comfortably. So it checks that box. If you're looking at a car that you need to carry a lot of items, and even an SUV which may be limited by how much space you have in the back, even if you fold down the rear seats. If you look at the pickup bed and the amount of storage you can put, and also lockable storage, for me it's very important that if you're going to have many items on a bed, and you need to have something that is very practical that you could leave on there, that you do need to get some type of tonneau cover that is lockable. I think that the level of security that a tonneau cover offers varies from the ones that are like the harder type tonneau covers than the softer ones that is more like a liner. So it depends on the level of security that you seek. So it does check that box as well. If you need to tow something, with the towing capacity of a car like that, you can just get a hitch and you can tow a boat, you can tow a trailer. It's got these connectors for the hitch lights, the tow lights, based on the type that you have. And then you can get this in any auto store or any big box store. So it checks that as well. If you like to have a good commanding view of the road and great visibility as you drive, then it checks that box as well. Ride of which I spoke about, meaning that it can absorb potholes and bumps, and if you drive it on a dirt road, it's not going to shake and rattle as much as a non-truck would be. Well, then it checks that box as well. So as you can see, there are so many different uses for a pickup truck that you don't know what you don't have until you don't have it anymore and you miss it. So there have been times when I've been way out of town, or there have been times when I haven't had my truck for whatever reason, and those are those times when you realize that a pickup truck should be a necessary vehicle in anyone's fleet, assuming that you could have more than one truck, or rather more than one car. A pickup truck should be up there on your list. If you don't live in a city or a town where you have big parking spaces, or it's a small town where the roads are not as big, then this may be more of a challenge for you. Also keep in mind that if you're conscious about how much gas you're spending, this is not going to do it for you either. So there are some trade-offs related to it, and you need to be aware of those trade-offs. And again, I've had this car for 9 years, and over the course of the 9 years, I've had an opportunity to sell it and get another car. And every time I think about it, I would say, well, why should I? With what it's done for the last 9 years and what it continues to do, and it runs excellent, have not found a good enough reason or an excuse to be able to justify selling it and buying a different one. Yeah, there are newer trucks out there, but if you have the mindset that I have in terms of there's no need to fix what is not broken, then you would understand. My name is George. This is GLLR Cars, and as always, drive safe.